Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to Volume 2 of Step Through the Ropes. Many wrestling fans have said that the year 2000 was WCW's worst year in the company history. But I think 1999 was pretty bad too, and maybe even worse. Well, you're wondering why? Here's my reasons. Okay, here we go. January 4th, 1999, the very first Nitro of the year, which was also the very first night of Ric Flair's presidency storyline. It was on that night where World Champion Kevin Nash was going to give Goldberg a rematch from Starrcade after dethroning him. But Goldberg had been arrested for harassing Miss Elizabeth, rest her soul, and that Goldberg was arrested. And I forgot if it was an argument ensued, but it led up to Hulk Hogan, who had retired 2 months earlier, to challenge Nash for the World Championship. Now, that very same night, as Nitro was going to a commercial break, broadcaster Tony Schiavone announced to everyone at home that Mick Foley, who competed in WCW as Cactus Jack, was winning the WWF World title on Raw, which had been taped 6 nights earlier. And Schiavone said, just as they were going to commercial break, that'll put butts in the seats. I don't know if Schiavone did that on his own or he was told to by those above him, namely Eric Bischoff. But I understand approximately thousands, maybe even 1 million viewers switched the channel to see Foley win that championship. And while over WCW, the Hogan-Nash match resulted in the infamous finger poke of doom, where Hogan just used his finger on Nash, and Nash literally laid down, labeling Hogan to be champion again. And as a result, the Black and White and Wolfpack portions of the NWO came back together as one big happy family, leaving Goldberg laying, and I forgot who else they did a number on, other baby faces at the time. January 17th, it is WCW's first pay-per-view of 1999, titled Sold Out. Now, this particular show, 4 matches ended on submissions, including Chris Jericho defeating Perry Saturn in a loser must wear a dress match. On this very show, out of all their championships, only the Cruiserweight title was defended in a 4-way matchup. Also that night, David Flair made his in-ring debut, teaming with his dad, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, still the storyline president, defeating Barry Windham and the late Curt Hennig. And after the match, both Flairs were beaten down by Hulk Hogan and many NWO members. The main event of this pitiful pay-per-view, say that 3 times, folks, was a ladder taser match between Goldberg and Scott Hall. Now, I understand the reason behind the match due to what happened at Starrcade 98, where Goldberg was tased by Hall just before he was defeated by Kevin Nash for the world title, and his undefeated streak had ended. But they put that as the main event of a pay-per-view. I mean, Hogan, who was world champion at the time, didn't wrestle. Television champion at the time, Scott Steiner, didn't have a match, and I don't know if he was even in attendance. The tag team title at the time was, I guess, vacant or practically had been ignored since the late stages of 1998. But a ladder taser match, main eventing a pay-per-view. Well, I'm not going to give you every bit and piece of what happened in 1999, folks, but there's a lot more I have on here. Okay, February 8th, Monday Nitro. Rowdy Roddy Piper, rest his soul, defeats Bret the Hitman Hart to become the United States Championship. Now, many have said that Bret's career was mismanaged in WCW, and even Bret went so far to say that being there was a waste of time. Well, let's put it this way. As I said, he lost the U.S. title to Piper February 8th of 1999. The following Monday, February 15th, Bret is in a match with Mad TV's Will Sasso. If that wasn't bad enough, Sasso was accompanied to the ring by his Mad TV cast member, Deborah Wilson, who, by the way, she hit Sasso with a chair and basically assisted Bret Hart on winning the matchup over Will Sasso. I mean, Sasso did not really get any offense in this match, but I have to say, with Bret winning the match, that was the only good thing that happened. Now, February 21st of that year, it's Super Brawl 9. Conan and Rey Mysterio lose a mask versus hair match to the NWO's Kevin Nash and Lex Luger. As a result, Mysterio had to unmask. He took the mask off, and my first thought, he looked like a dang 12-year-old boy. I mean, it's bad enough a year earlier at Super Brawl Juventud Guerrera unmasked, and he looked like a chick. That very same night, in the main event, Hulk Hogan defeats Ric Flair to retain the World Heavyweight Championship after David Flair interferes and joins the NWO. The following night, February 22nd of 1999, Rey Mysterio defeats Kevin Nash. Now, at this very time, even though it dates back to the late stages of 1998, Nash and Diamond Dallas Page took the book in WCW, I understand. And it was on this very night, Nash did the job for Mysterio because he said he did it to set an example to Bret Hart. Because Bret really did not want to drop the United States title to the late Roddy Piper 2 weeks earlier. Of course, we know that Bret did do business. Okay, the following Monday, March 1st, Mysterio, who at the time WCW was trying to push him as their Spike Dudley, Mysterio defeated Bam Bam Bigelow, rest his soul, the same exact way that Spike Dudley defeated Bigelow in ECW about 2 years earlier. The following Monday, March 8th, Mysterio defeats the NWO's Scott Norton. I'm not complaining about Mysterio getting the wins over the bigger men, or the fact that I was saying WCW was trying to make him their Spike Dudley, seemingly, since Spike had defeated many big men in ECW in the 2 previous years. Then we get to March 14th, which was the uncensored pay-per-view. Stevie Ray defeats Vincent for control of NWO Black and White. That very same night, the main event is Hulk Hogan defending the world title against Ric Flair in a First Blood steel cage match. My understanding is, if Hogan won, Flair would no longer be president of the company. Well, get this. Both men bled, and the referee, Charles Robinson, didn't stop the match, and a First Blood cage match ends with Flair pinning Hogan to win the world title, and Flair held on to his presidency. And it was around this time where Flair started abusing his power as president on TV. Okay, fast forward to March 29th in Toronto, Monday Nitro in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, where Bret the Hitman Hart's in the ring wearing a Toronto Maple Leafs hockey jersey, and he says he could beat Goldberg within 5 seconds. Goldberg comes out, he spears Bret, and Goldberg's not moving, and Bret puts Goldberg around, and this was not an official match, but Bret made his own 3 count, takes off the hockey jersey, has a steel plate on himself, and he announces, Eric Bischoff and WCW, I quit. Okay, well, this was an angle done because Bret, I think, had a groin injury at the time, so that was a way of giving Bret a break. Okay, following Monday, which was Monday, April the 5th, I understand that was the night WCW unveiled that weird-looking logo of theirs. I did not like that one at all. And a new Nitro logo, a new Nitro set. And that was, I can't remember what happened that night. But on April 11th, Spring Stampede pay-per-view took place. Many say this was definitely their best pay-per-view of 1999. And many say one of their best pay-per-views in the company's history. And it was on that night, in a four-way matchup, Diamond Dallas Page defeated Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, and Sting to win his first WWE World title. The match was refereed by the late Macho Man Randy Savage, where Flair had, I don't know if it was Page or Sting in the figure four leg lock. Savage grabs a hold of Flair's arms, pulls him away into the center of the ring. Savage climbs the top rope, nails Flair with the big elbow, and eventually Page nails Flair with a diamond cutter and pins him for the World Championship. April 19th on Monday Nitro, the late Roddy Piper had some paperwork and tells Ric Flair that he's out of control, he's abusing his power as president, and Flair was institutionalized. He ended up like in this mental home. Shows how, so far you can see how fucking shitty WCW's been in 1999 from what I've gone through so far. Okay, following Nitro, Monday, April 26th of that year, with Flair institutionalized, Piper was in charge of the show, and he tells Diamond Dallas Page, you're defending your world title tonight against Sting. You only got 45 minutes to get ready. And Sting defeats Diamond Dallas Page to win the World Heavyweight Championship. At the end of later that night, Page defeats Sting, Kevin Nash. Oh, I forgot who it was. No, Sting, Kevin Nash, and I think it was Goldberg. I know it could have been Hogan. Hogan was injured at the time. And Page regained the title, so he lost and regained the belt in the same night. Then, May 9th, Slamboree pay-per-view, we see the in-ring debuts of Little Nate, Charles Robinson, as he took on Gorgeous George, the girlfriend of the late Randy Savage at the time. And Gorgeous George, a non-wrestler, and Little Nate, a referee. She wins the match. As a result of the match, of the pre-match stipulation, Savage was finally reinstated into WCW. Later that night, Ric Flair faces Roddy Piper for the presidency of the company. Flair had initially won, but out comes Eric Bischoff, and he says to Piper, you won this match, and tells Flair, you can bite me. And then the main event, we see Kevin Nash basically exercising his Booker card as he defeats fellow Booker at the time, Diamond Dallas Page, to win the world title. Initially, I think Randy Savage interfered in the match, I believe. Something happened. I think either Nash won on a DQ initially or Page initially won, but Eric Bischoff came out and he tells referee Nick Patrick, you know, if anyone has a problem with me making this match continue, have them call me in the morning. And Kevin Nash ended up world champion, defeating Diamond Dallas Page, and this was Nash's second WCW world title. Yes, second WCW world title. Also in the month of May, the late Kurt Hennig and the late Bobby Duncombe Jr., started the whole rap is crap thing, and they joined up with the Wyndham brothers, Barry and Kendall, to feud with Conan, Rey Mysterio, and the No Limit Soldiers. Okay, May 31st, Nitro. The Triad was born. It was Diamond Dallas Page, Chris Kanyon, rest his soul, and Bam Bam Bigelow, rest his soul, as I forgot which two members it was. They won the WCW World Tag Team Championship against defeating Raven and Perry Saturn. June 13th, the Great American Bash pay-per-view. Ric Flair takes on Roddy Piper for who will be for the presidency of WCW again. Buff Bagwell interferes. He attacks Flair, and then Piper attacks Bagwell, and Flair and Piper double team Bagwell. Later that night, during the main event between Kevin Nash and Randy Savage for the World Championship, Sid Vicious makes his return after he had been fired from WCW in late 1993. The following night, June 14th at Monday Nitro, Ric Flair names Roddy Piper the vice president of his vice president of WCW. There we go. More. We got more, folks. Don't worry. July 5th, Monday Nitro, David Flair is awarded the United States title after Scott Steiner. I don't know if he was stripped of the belt or he was stripped of the title. I don't know if he was injured at the time or what the problem was. Monday Nitro, July 19th, Sting defeats Ric Flair to win the presidency from him, and Sting eventually gave, I think storyline-wise, he gave the presidency to the championship committee or the board of directors. Okay. In the month of August, I don't know the exact date, but there was a meeting before Monday Nitro went on the air, and Eric Bischoff said if anybody wants out of their contract, they can leave this meeting now, and the only person who did it was Raven, who ended up back in ECW. Okay, Friday, September 10th, 1999, Eric Bischoff got removed from his position as executive vice president. No storyline here. Executive vice president of the company, and it was taken over by Bill Bush, who I understand was an accountant. 2 days later, September 12th, the Fall Brawl pay-per-view occurs. Buff Bagwell was set to go on one with Berlin, who was the repackaged Alex Wright. Bagwell was set to put Berlin over in the match. Unfortunate, however, he refused to do so after Berlin wanted the match to be a complete squash, and Bagwell bickered that he wasn't going to go out there, and Berlin ended up wrestling Hacksaw Jim Duggan, where Berlin won the match. The main event that very night, Sting challenges Hulk Hogan for the World Championship, and it was after all this interference by Diamond Dallas Page, Bret Hart, Sid Vicious. Eventually Lex Luger comes out, tries to use the bat, and he's stopped. But then Sting gets the bat, uses on Hulk Hogan, and he turns heel. Sting is a heel for the first time since like the early days of his career. And this was one heel turn that really didn't work out because the fans didn't seem to care, or they just continued cheering him anyway. Okay, Monday Nitro, September 27th, after being defeated by Billy Kidman, Psychosis unmasks. The following week on Nitro, October the 4th, Psychosis comes out as the Cruiserweight Champion after Lenny Lane and Lodi were taken off of television because they had been portraying themselves as a gay duo, and I understand the standards and practice above them didn't like the whole idea. But even though Psychosis came on the air, came to the ring as Cruiserweight Champion, he lost the belt to Disco Inferno. Ha! Monday Nitro, October 18th. It is the beginning of the Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara era, as they were referred to as the powers that be. And that very same night, Jeff Jarrett returned, bashing Buff Bagwell with a guitar after his loss to La Parka. And Jarrett, this was his first time back in WCW after leaving precisely 2 years to the month. Where his first run, he left WCW in October of 97. Eventually went back to Vince McMahon and stayed there for like 2 years, and then he came back to WCW again. Also should be noted, Hack, who was known as the Sandman, and Mikey Whipwreck were, I don't know if they were released or they left WCW, they went back to ECW. October 24th, the Halloween Havoc pay-per-view, where Hulk Hogan lays down for Sting. The following night, October 25th, actually should be noted that with Hogan laying down for Sting, later in the pay-per-view, Sting issued an open challenge because he said he didn't come to the pay-per-view for a night off. He said he came for a fight and made a challenge for to face anybody later in the show. And the show ended with Sting being defeated by Goldberg. And after the match, Sting attacked the referee. The following night, October 25th, for the WCW, actually, Sting tells J.J. Dillon, hey, you know, but that was not a title match. I should still be champion. And Dillon responds to Sting and says, you're right. The match is null and void. Goldberg is not the champion. But you're not. But tells Sting, you're not, because you attacked the referee after the match. You're not the champion either. And they kicked off a world title tournament, which culminated on November 21st for WWE's first Mayhem pay-per-view. And that very night, out came Ed Ferrara, dressed up as Jim Ross, calling himself Oklahoma. Okay. December 13th, Monday Nitro. The artist formerly known as Prince Iaukea, where Prince Iaukea was portrayed as the departed singer Prince. December 19th, WWE's final pay-per-view of the century, as it was Starrcade. Bret the Hitman Hart suffers a concussion in his match with Goldberg. And Bret had Goldberg in the sharpshooter, and there was no winner, as the late Roddy Piper came out, and he declared the match over. The following night, December 20th, on Nitro, Piper basically tries to expose Vince Russo in a, I guess, worked shoot, and Bret had given up the world title, and he and Goldberg had a rematch to end the night. But then out comes Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, and even Jeff Jarrett, as Hall, Nash, Jarrett, and Bret Hart form the NWO Silver and Black, which was WCW's final incarnation of the New World Order. Well, there was so much more that took place in WCW in 1999, but you pretty much get the idea what I'm saying. I think it was just as, it was pretty bad. Many say, like I said at the beginning, many said WCW 2000 was pretty bad. So let me know, folks. What do you think was WCW's worst of times? Whether it was 2000, 1999, another year? Definitely let me know in your comments, and there's definitely going to be a whole lot more WCW related topics coming, folks. If you thought that, I hope, especially if you thought this was torture. Oh boy. So, hope you enjoyed Volume 2, everybody.